Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
Years ago, I served on a soccer board, and my kids played soccer. They were in the league, and I just figured this is my way of contributing. But there were a couple of other people who are on the board that I didn't think I would ever see it, but they were just downright bullies. I mean, they were just bullies. They had the list of all the parents' names. And when anything didn't go their way, they would send a anonymous email. They would create a Gmail that nobody knew who it was. But I mean, come on, they had the whole list. I mean, you didn't need to be, you didn't need to have a film or something. But they were just doing all sorts of stuff like that. Finally, at least with two of my kids, I just got them out of the club because it was just toxic for them. And it really took a toll on me emotionally, mentally, maybe not emotionally, because I was always looking around the corner, and I just felt like I was doing the right thing for the club and had a lot of support of other people. And just when things didn't go their way, they just, it was let's burn everything down sort of an attitude. But I've come to realize that, over the years I've been bullied. I was bullied as a kid. When I went off to college, I was, somewhat bullied. You get people, the peer pressure, picking on you, things like that. It's kind of the power imbalance. Anytime I have come into a power imbalance, there have been bullies, and the bullying takes on a different form, but it's there. And in time, you get better at dealing with it. I mean, I'm at a point now where it's like, yeah, fine, I don't need you. And I think that's, again, I just dilute the power imbalance. But it's just, to me, is amazing that these things are still out there. And so I think today's guest, Joyce Weiss, is great. She's a communication coach. She's the queen of conflict resolution. She says she specializes in kicking conflict to the curb, and she does a lot with dealing with bullies and other difficult people. And I think it's something that if you're out, if you're networking or whatever, you're going to have people who are going to try and have the upper hand on you. And you can walk away. But what I have found is that there's always going to be someone out there, and you're always going to have to deal with it sooner or later. You have to stop, and I'm not saying fight, but deal with it. So, Joyce, welcome. How you doing?
Thank you. I feel your pain from that experience that you had.
Yeah.
Most of us have experienced it.
Yeah, it's a lot of it was satisfying, very satisfying, but you just had, there were issues, and I think part of it because money was involved. Some of these people were getting paid, and that was a problem. And that's almost 10 years ago. But I still think about those things, and my radar is up for, okay, what are we doing? What's this person about? Are they, are they disingenuous? And I'm self-employed. I've been self-employed since 1995, so I don't have to deal with it as much. When you're working in a corporate role, my wife works in a corporate role, and her boss has changed 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years, and luckily she's had good people for the most part, but there's always somebody in that corporate food chain who just feels like they have the right to make people's lives miserable. And I think in the end they get it. They get their just desserts, right? But it's in the meantime, you have to deal with it. So,
or do you? And this is
okay.
What because people come to me for coaching.
Yeah.
Many times it's anything about conflict, the dark side, conflict, or the light side, how to keep my people. And the reason why I jumped in there and said, or do you? Because the people who come to me who have a boss, who have a supervisor, who they're bullies, and maybe you do have to deal with it. I'm not saying that everybody always has the risk factor of speaking up to these people. But there's always a chance that, how about opening up your mouth? Because it was Martin Luther King, and I use this quote all the time when it comes to conflict.
Mhm.
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So if that bully, of which I've experienced a few in my life socially, if that bully at work is giving you some kind of interpersonal destruction, the bottom line, it's a form of violence. Do you need to take it? Some are going to say, yeah, I can't do anything, I'm going to get in trouble. Others say, I'd love to learn how. So I learned how. Yeah, go on.
Well, what I had said, not, you have to learn, you have to deal with it. And I'm not saying walk away from it, because I totally agree with you. I think in a lot of situations, when you shine the light of day on something, ask for a meeting with that boss, that supervisor, close the door. You don't want to do it publicly. This is my take on it. Sit down with them and say, I don't appreciate this. I don't know if I've done something wrong. I want to clear this thing up. I like working here. For the most part, I enjoy working with you. But man, when you have these meltdowns, it's not fun. So, I mean, that's easier said than done. I know it is.
But I like the way you said, I like working here. When you have your meltdowns, it's not fun. I mean, I'm not saying exactly how you said it better than it. But the point is, I would just add, I'm curious. Is there something that I've done to create this? That's a good, I'm curious, is just, Frank, I do that almost all the time with family.
Yeah.
I'm curious. There seemed to be tension in the room, what's going on, or I'm curious. And then to add what you just said, is there something that I did do that ticked you off? If not, I'd like to really have an important conversation. That I love working here. It's tough when I get put down in front of my direct reports or other team members. Is there something that we can do? I mean,
yeah.
And throw it back. Just have a conversation. Don't go back and say, you're a bully, and I know that's not what you're saying. That's not going to work. All of these communication strategies that we're going to talk about today, Frank, there's science behind it. It doesn't just happen. But I'm just saying, feeling heard. If you go down, I don't care who your guests are, when you go down deep about anything with conflict, it's people don't feel heard. That's what it comes to. And that is not a new concept, but that's what even though kick conflict to the curb is my lane, the second part is get the respect and feel heard. And people automatically start saying, oh my God, how did you know? I don't feel heard. I don't feel like I belong here. Why? Because many times there's a bully that takes over in the meeting. It's the loud one, of which I hope I'm not too loud. It's the loud one who takes over the softer one. And it's the loud bully, if the person's a bully, who has such a good time finding targets. And the targets usually are people who are more creative than the bully, more likable than the bully, has more skills than the bully. That's why they're the target. There's some kind of a mark against them. And this is when I say, don't let that bully attack you. Don't play victim. Figure out what you have to say. That's the science.
Yeah.
And so you know that 40% of Americans in the workplace do not report bullying because they feel there's going to be repercussions against them, or they're going to be known, oh, he or she is the sensitive one. So they don't want to take that. That startled me when I heard that last year.
I think we're in a better place in society, and people are more open to these conversations. I mean, it's not the 1950s, hey kids, shut up, get out of my office, do as I say, because people do have options. It might not be the same option. You know, my wife has worked at the same place for over 30 years. You know, she likes it. You know, she's got a lot of institutional knowledge, if you will, and there's a value in that. But, you know, she sees, you know, people are political animals, and it usually involves money, right? You're not having these issues down on the plant floor where people are making $17 an hour. You know, it's the person who, you know, making $170,000 a week or whatever, crazy money, that is not happy, or, you know, the gamesmanship and things like that. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. You need to figure out a strategy for dealing with it, and knowing that you can always walk away, but try to deal with it. And I think in the end, people, you know, if you come at it the right way, and we've kind of talked about, right, and show respect. And that's where I say, you know, I'm never a fan of calling somebody out in front of other people, because that puts them on the defensive. I don't know.
Yeah, if there are leaders listening to this engaging conversation, Frank, I would suggest two things. That, let's say maybe it's not even a bully on your team, but someone who's taking over. Maybe it's just somebody who likes having the power, likes taking over. That would be a great time for a one-on-one to say, hey, you know, you've got great ideas. It would be really important to hear from people who we don't hear from. Why don't you not zip up your lift? That wouldn't be a nice way of saying it, but how about just stepping back for a couple meetings and let's see what happens? I mean, that's a nicer way of saying it. You could be very direct and say, you know, you've talked too much. That's not going to get very far. And then the opposite, for the leader who has someone who knows that they have good ideas, but they just don't participate, call them in and say, you know, I know you've got good ideas. How about, I really respect you. How about you start sharing them? You talk about people not respecting you and you're not getting noticed. Why will you be noticed if you just sit there and let others take over? You're all about relationships, Frank. And that's all when people ask me, what do you do? And I say, well, HR directors are my ideal client, and I work with their direct reports so they improve relationships and reduce stress. And then they say, well, how do you do that? And last part is they transform from not knowing how to start a tough conversation to feeling confident using their voice without losing their cool. And that's really what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Whether you're a leader, help people who aren't confident to start using their voice, especially, and if it's a bully, this may sound too safe, but I'm going to tell you, every once in a while, when a coaching client comes to me because they're a bully, and he and I or she and I speak, and I say, why are you here? I don't know. And then when we get to the, your supervisor on our phone call together said that some people are calling you a bully. Well, I no one's ever told me that. Sometimes bullies really don't know.
Yeah.
They really, some of them do. Don't think that, but some of them, it's nobody just told them the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know what? This is maybe a horrible admission. Over time, I have been a jerk. I've been a jerk to people, you know. I'm not going to mention any names other than my own, Frank Hagan. I have been a jerk, and I know when I've been a jerk. And sometimes I've caught myself and felt really bad about it and just said, you know, and apologized. Other times the opportunity to apologize is long past, and I was just a jerk. But my point is that people know. They know. They may want to try and candy coat as well. I'm just trying to toughen them up. No. I mean, so the people coming to you, they know. They're just trying to put that political spin on it, whatever that might be. And, so they know. It comes down to, for me, in trying to deal with these things. And again, I'm self-employed. I run my own very successful business. Some days feel more successful than others. But hundreds of members and dozens of franchisees. I mean, it's a successful business. I'm kind of, in many respects, at the top of the food chain. In some respects, I'm not, because all these members are my clients. And so I do get bullied from time to time. People will, try to hold things over my head. Hey, we're raising dues. I demand a conversation with you. That to me, that's bullying, right? They're using a power imbalance. But for the most part, I have positioned myself so I don't have to deal with these sorts of things. And when I see them, I try to address them. But I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to one thing. We all kind of want similar things from life. We all want to be successful, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the common ground where, when you're having these conversations, you can try and get them to, listen, this is, Mr. Miss Boss. I know we both want this. Our bonus is both dependent upon this number or this outcome or this whatever, or life's going to be so much easier if we make this happen. So let's figure out how we can make this happen. And, I do see an issue here with you. And again, like you say, you don't want to say you're talking too much. I think there's some people we need to give the opportunity to talk to, I don't.
No, and what you did is there was a very positive spin on a possible very negative outcome, is that we really want the same thing. We want to succeed. We want, I mean, I'm not saying that's your story, but you spin it like that, it gets to be easier. And I one of the Weiss communication success plans that I use, and this is just perfect for bullies, and I'm going to share it with you, is you got to make the conversation safe first. Mm-hmm. So all it is starting out the statement, I don't want to, I do want to. I don't want to create more stress between us. I do want to resolve a very important situation right now. Are you willing to have this conversation? Now, if the person's a real jerk, you mentioned the word jerk, they're going to say, no, I don't like this touchy-feely stuff. Forget it. But if they do, that's just a chance of you then getting heard. Then you made the conversation safe. Then you can go deeper and talk about what we talked about before, or your last scenario. We both want the same thing. We're not agreeing on how to get there. Let's figure out how we can do this. A bully possibly could step back and say, wow, that really sounds like a good idea. And I've had the bullies that they've been friends, not business associates, but friends who used to bully me because I allowed them, because I was so fun to be picked on. And it dawned on me when I was working with clients, oh my God, I've been a target for all these years. Then when I figured that out in a heartbeat, I went to both of them different times and had one of those talks. And, Joyce, you're the only friend who's still working, what? And push for years, actually, because they retired very early. And the excuse is, oh, I still love it. Now I say, you're right. I am one of the only friends that's working. And I'm curious, what upsets you about it when I'm at the top of my career? I've never enjoyed myself. that they pulled away by just saying you're right to a bully. Whoa. But
Yeah.
people sometimes think, I'm not going to say you're right. Well, if they are right, that statement, it made sense. I mean, you can't always use it, but this stuff works when you think about it before. I
Yeah.
call it the science.
Yeah, where I thought you were going with that, which I couldn't be equally as effective. You're right. I am still working. I'm just wondering why that seems to threaten you.
That's perfect.
Because at the end of the day, that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's and I have dealt with these things. It's not really out and out bullying, but it's quasi bullying. I have exercised and worked out for years, and people will, oh my gosh, you still get up early in the morning and work out?
Oh, God.
Yeah, I do. I don't, why does that seem to bother you? Or I've gone on vacation, not many, and people, you can't bring your computer. There's no work on the vacation. It's like, I'm not about that. I enjoy staying connected. Give me 2 hours a day just to kind of keep in touch with the office, so I don't come back to, chaos. And that's how I enjoy vacation. And some people have jobs, right, where they can totally walk away, and somebody's going to pick up the pieces, and they're going to come back and step right into the what do you call it? What did Henry Ford? Well, the routine, yeah. The Henry Ford invented the whatever the line, and they have jobs like that where it's it's just okay. Everything was taken care of. Just step right in.
Sure.
Start putting lug bolts back on tires here on wheels, and I don't, and so I feel like I need to. But people, they have a problem with that, and it's like, why does that bother you? I'm not saying get up with me, and go lift weights or go for a walk. I'm not saying, hey, you need to stop what you're doing to do. I don't see how it's affecting you. So,
and you brought your story about you taking the computer to on a vacation. Sarcasm is part of bullying. Like your friend who said that, I mean, whether he or she was sarcastic about it, but sarcasm is a form of bullying when it really destroys somebody. I don't mean destroys where they're going to die, but destroys their ego a little bit, their self-confidence. It's none of his or her business. It's nobody's business what we do. It's nobody's business, but we allow them to continue the sarcasm, to continue the questions about why we do what we do. We don't have to.
Yeah.
By answering it, like you did, or just the I'm curious part. I'm curious, what makes you so interested in what I do on vacations?
Yeah.
That is just not being rude, folks. That really, I am curious. Don't worry, you're not pushing me, Frank. I'm not saying you. I mean, to friends, I actually start doing that now. It's simple. They put, you know what? You're right, Joyce. They start saying that to me now. You're right. Go do what you want.
Yeah.
Go work till you're, 104. I said, thank you. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'll say something nice at your funeral, because people who continue to work tend to live longer. They do. They do. But I think part of the point is that, the bullying is not always coming from up top. Bullying can come from, not generally from below, but certainly our peers. Who just, and again, it's some sort of insecurity that they have. I think it all comes down to insecurity. There's some sort of insecurity. It's like, okay, the boss is insecure with their position, or the peer is, geez, you're working so hard. You're here at 7 a.m. Oh my gosh, stop it. Listen, you can show up at 7 a.m. It's like I haven't cornered the market on things. I'm here. But it's again, not walking from it, but dealing with it,
But Frank, you just said something, and sorry, I just interrupted your last part, but
no, you're fine.
I have to say this. You said something that's very, very important. When someone is bullying us, we've got to realize that, yes, of course it's insecurity. Absolutely. It has nothing to do with us.
No,
It's
you're right.
it's, you mentioned before, what threatens you about me working, or however you said it. We have to remind ourselves it has nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Once we realize that, it may not bother you it won't bother you as much, because you realize it's just a little boy or little girl playing mean in the sandbox, a 2-year-old, but they happen to be dressed up in a suit, or jeans and a shirt,
Right.
whatever people wear. So that alone could help us, the people who are bullied, realize that it's not really that I'm working or that I'm taking my computer to work or that I come to work early. It's their insecurities.
Yeah.
Once we realize that, man, the bully power could go down the drain.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a really bad situation where the doctor is saying you have to leave that job because your health is very important and you're not sleeping, you really have to take it seriously and either talk to HR, talk to your boss, figure out what to do, start looking for another job. I never tell people to look for another job. I mean, unless it gets to the point where they say to me, my doctor says the stress is killing me.
Yeah.
Then we have but otherwise I think there's something that we can usually turn around.
I would guess that if it gets to that point, they haven't dealt with it enough.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of the things that you talk about and a lot of things we've talked about here, I think they ultimately work. I think when you shine the light of day on the problem, listen, and you have to be specific about it. In the middle of the meeting, you called me out for something and I wasn't comfortable with the way that all came down. And I could be wrong, but I got the sense that you have some animosity towards me for some reason or another. Can we talk about this? And if they want to be defensive, let them be defensive. But at least then you've shined the light of day on, in the middle of the meeting, you did this and it didn't feel right. And just, leave it at that. At least then they're on notice.
They're on notice and you're going to respect yourself because you said something that was very important to you. So you may get the respect from the other person. Yay, if that happens. Mainly, you're going to respect yourself. Hey, that wasn't so bad. I didn't croak from being honest. Then it's going to be easier the next time and the next time. And you're going to do it more and more and more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch gears here for a second.
Sure.
Let's stop talking about all the bullies in the world and the people who need to deal with
Okay.
the bullies. Let's talk about your business and what you've got going on and how people can get a hold of you and how you engage with your clients and company clients, individual clients, programs you have. Love to hear it.
I'd love to share it.
Okay.
I am, like you said in the beginning, I am a communication coach, and I do either individual coaching or small group coaching. And whether it's dealing with bullies, whether it's a career advancement, HR professionals don't have the time. And sometimes they say, Joyce, I don't have even the skills to help. We need an outsider. So they will send their people who maybe are a little shyer and they need to, if they want to get a promotion, let's talk about how to get that attention. And we share the communication success, the WISE communication success plan. I have a brand new assessment. It's not mine. It's called the conflict dynamic profile. And many times I suggest that new clients just set up one session with me. I send them the profile. They learn so much about themselves, how they deal with conflict before, during, and after. There hasn't been one client who hasn't said to me, are you a palm reader? How did you know that? And they learn a lot. And from there, then they can discover how they want to go deeper, how they can learn how to get into other people's shoes, listen better, not have that imposter syndrome, learn how to get rid of, am I good enough? So those are some of the reasons why people come. And if people go to joyceweiss.com under services, coaching, I have all my plans there. in the different options, the different pricing. And I know I'm very, very fair because I love doing it. And people can connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Joyce Weiss. And if there are leaders listening and they would like to have a small survey, there are only 11 questions that they could ask their employees, because we didn't talk about this, and maybe we can talk about this another session,
Sure.
Frank, is how to keep your team engaged. And it's how to stop the revolving door syndrome. All they have to do is send me an email and I will send them the survey. People love it. And the email is joyce@joyceweiss.com. And that's WEISS as in success.com. And YouTube. Oh my God. I've got like probably 250 videos right now, whether they're real short or long. Long to me is 5 minutes, or you were a guest on my show, Frank Agan.
Yep.
So people can watch that. I have all my Kick Conflict to the Curb show interviews there. And last thing, if anybody is saying, hey, I got something to add and you would like to be a guest on my show, send me an email and we could set up a time to see if you wanted to, and I'll tell you all about it. And it's free. I don't charge. I have to say that because everyone's selling things these days.
Well,
so was that enough?
That thing was great. I appreciate your time on the program today.
Oh, I want to come back. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. You have a good day.
You too, Frank.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.